Hello, Jeff Zwerink again here with Give and Take, the segment of the show where we look at fascinating scientific discoveries and how they help equip you to be more confident in sharing your faith. Today I'm joined by my good friend and colleague Fazale Rana, and we're going to be discussing the process of transferring memories from one creature to another. I mean, are we creating Frankenstein? Fuzz, good to have you here today.
Thanks, Jeff.
So this is something, I mean, it really does seem kind of science fiction-y. You know, we're taking memories from one creature to another, kind of Frankenstein, are we playing God type things. Kind of what's going on here? What's the motivation behind this research?
Yeah, well, this was actually done by a team of researchers from UCLA, which is the institution that you have an affiliation with. And so in addition to working here at Reasons to Believe, you also have a research appointment at UCLA. But these scientists were actually trying to understand what is the physical basis for memory? How are memories stored in the brain? How are they encoded? How are they retrieved? And to do these experiments, they were working with a group of organisms known as sea slugs. Sea slugs are really good creatures to study questions in neuroscience for a number of reasons.
Actually kind of developed, why are sea slugs good for that? I mean, one would think they're pretty primitive. Why would they be any advantage there?
Well, they are kind of in between being primitive and advanced.
Okay.
They have a nervous system that's made up of about 20,000 neurons, which are the nerve cells that are involved in nerve transmission. So it's a fairly complex nervous system that allows them to engage in some sophisticated behaviors, but it's tractable enough that you can actually study the nervous system and figure out what's going on.
So it's complex enough that there's some interesting stuff, but not so complex that you can't get a handle on it.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, so you said 20,000. How does that compare to the human brain?
The human brain has somewhere between 85 and 100 billion neurons that make it up.
So this is quite a bit simpler than that.
Yes,
than the human brain.
But these creatures display an interesting property called sensitization, which means that when they experience insults or threats from the environment or pain induced from environmental stimuli, that they become sensitized to it. These sea slugs have what's called a siphon gill withdrawal, so that when something is harmful to them, they kind of contract themselves in.
Kind of protection mechanism, if you will.
That's right. And so what these researchers did is they shocked these sea slugs over and over again, and it developed a sensitization to environmental stimuli, so that if they touched one of these sea slugs after shocking it, it would withdraw and stay.
Even without the shock?
Yeah, just from a touch.
Okay.
That's the sensitization.
All right, okay.
And it's kind of akin to a memory. So they would withdraw and stay withdrawn for up to a minute. Sea slugs that weren't shocked, that weren't sensitized, if the researchers touched them, they would withdraw, but only stay withdrawn for 1 or 2 seconds.
Okay.
And so what they then did is they kind of ground up those sea slugs that were sensitized, extracted the biochemicals from the nerve cells and injected them into sea slugs that hadn't been sensitized.
Okay.
And lo and behold, those sea slugs, when they were touched, would withdraw and stay withdrawn for up to a minute.
Okay.
So they were able to transfer memories of sorts from one sea slug to another just simply by extracting brain chemicals.
Okay, so this is all taking place in the brain, not the organs or whatever.
That's right.
So it is actually memories, if you will.
Yep.
So, okay, so what are the implications of this research? I mean, this doesn't sound like we're making Frankenstein by any stretch here, but what's going to flow from this?
Yeah, well, the researchers believe that this is a very important step forward in understanding how, again, memories are encoded and stored and then retrieved in the brain. And it actually turns attention to the neurons themselves as opposed to the interactions between neurons. Many people thought that memories were actually stored in the ways that neurons interact with each other. This study is now saying that those memories are probably encoded within the nerve cells. And so the researchers think that this might be critical insight for helping us to treat Alzheimer's disease or dementia. So that's kind of the end game.
You know, that's a fascinating thing. It seems like there's just a lot of people, maybe because we're living longer, that suffer with dementia, Alzheimer's type stuff. But the idea that we can get insight into how to treat that from these sea slugs, that seems remarkable to me.
It is. It really is mind-blowing to think that we could study a creature like a sea slug and from that gain insight that could help with human diseases.
So what do you, I mean, did God just set it up that way? Is that just a fluke? I mean, how would you explain that feature of creation?
Well, the reason why we can do that is because there's a universal nature to life. All life is built out of cells. Those cells have very similar structures. They're made out of the same kind of biochemistry.
They all share the DNA, RNA, that sort of stuff. So presumably this is something going on in the RNA and DNA, so that would be transferable in that sense.
That's right, yes. But also organisms have similar anatomy and physiology. And so because of those similarities, what we learn for one organism applies to many other organisms as well. And so when you think about it, if it wasn't set up that way, biology wouldn't even be possible. Because everything that we would do would be to study one organism, and what we learned would only apply to that organism. But because we have this universal nature to life, it means that what we learn, even by studying a bacteria or a yeast cell or a sea slug or a nematode, we can apply to human biology. And so this is really, really critical, not only for biology, but even for medicine or for agricultural advance, for biotechnology.
You know, it seems that that discussion right there has ties to this common design, common descent discussion, that we see all these similarities and features, therefore we're all descended from a common organism. But from what I hear, you're saying that if a creator is involved, you would actually expect to see these similarity in features, because that's what's going to allow this applicability that what I study in pigs and rodents and sea slugs is actually going to be applicable to the human body.
Yes.
That's kind of a remarkable thing.
Yeah, it is, because, so many people would say the shared features reflect an evolutionary history. But, from my perspective as a creationist / ID proponent, I would argue that those shared features reflect common design. But there's more than just simply a creator using shared designs to create life, but it looks as if God has set things up so that discovery in biology is possible. And through that, we can see God's fingerprints revealed, but it also allows for human beings to make progress, for human beings to flourish. And so it's really the very theologically rich idea that flows out of this idea of shared features.
Well, thanks, Fuzz. I appreciate your comments. And I really do find this fascinating, that these sorts of things where we seem to be playing God, or things that are a little bit touchy, edgy, maybe a threat to Christianity, when you dig in and explore deeper, you actually see how they reveal the hand of the Creator. I would encourage you to go on to reasons.org and check out Fuzz's blog about transferring memories from one snail to another to get more tools so that you can use this to go share the gospel with those God has put around you.